India beating Kuwait in their first World Cup or FIFA World Cup qualifier for the 2026 edition of the tournament. Well, it ensured that they got off to what could only be described as the perfect start, given that it was the first match against a somewhat tricky opposition and away from home. But a 1-0 win courtesy of Manveer Singh ensures that India have gotten 3 points and they currently sit second in Group A of round 2 of the AFC FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Now, it is worth remembering that the AFC FIFA World Cup qualifiers double up not only as qualifiers for the FIFA World Cup but also the AFC Asian Cup. We remember that India have qualified for the 2023 edition, so these qualifiers are for the 2027 edition of the continental tournament. But whilst AFC Asian Cup qualification has become something of a norm in recent times, you qualified in 2011, then in 2019, now again for 2023, the real goal is always, or the real dream is FIFA World Cup qualification, something India have never done throughout its footballing history, despite at one point being considered one of the best teams in Asia. So, is it possible, and what exactly is the scenarios that would be required were India to actually want to make it and qualify for the 2026 edition of the tournament that is set to be held in the United States of America, Canada and Mexico? To answer the first question, it would be hard. I mean, India are not one of the bigger nations in Asia, and despite the fact that come 2026 the tournament is extending and you are going to be seeing more AFC spots in the World Cup, you'll have 8 AFC spots for the next edition of the FIFA World Cup, it still doesn't make things all that much easier for India. The good news is the way to qualify, thanks to a pretty favorable draw, at least for the second round, shouldn't be too tough. But even if they aren't made to make it through in the direct, most easy way, there are other ways for them to do so, albeit the further down you slip, the more difficult it becomes. So what exactly are the scenarios? Without further ado, let's get to that straight away. Now, scenario number 1 is simple. All they have to do is finish in the top 2 of Group A to kickstart the process. Currently, they are seated second behind Qatar, who are, of course, defending AFC Asian Cup champions and one of the powerhouses of the continent. Now, when they finish, or if they finish in the top 2, it guarantees them an AFC Asian Cup entry for 2027 because, as I said, this doubles up as qualifiers. But more importantly, it ensures that they go into round 3. Now, round 3 is really where you can seal your direct qualification if you are good enough in that particular round, because in round 3 you will see 18 teams going in, and those 18 teams will be drawn into 3 groups which features 6 teams each. Now, the top 2 teams from those groups will then end up getting direct qualification for the FIFA World Cup. So it's pretty simple on paper. Finish top 2 in the current group, which is Group A in round 2, make it to round 3, and whichever group you're in, finish among the top 2 over there as well, and that's it. Your ticket is booked for the FIFA World Cup. Of course, that sounds very simple on paper, but given the fact that India are probably not one of the favorites to be making it through, the fact that they could even make it through to round 3 would in itself be an achievement, never mind then getting into a top 2 finish. I'm not ruling it out entirely, I'm just saying the further along you go, the tougher it begins. But, and I doubtless hear you ask this, what if India don't end up finishing in the top 2 of the round 3? Well, no problem, there's still another way for you to make it, but as I said, it continues to get tougher. Scenario number 2 would involve them finishing either 3rd or 4th in their respective group. Now, if they finish 3rd or 4th, then they end up making it into round 4. Now, round 4 for them in this case would see, because of course the number of groups which were there was previously you had 6 groups, so now because of these 3 groups rather, so since 2 teams from every group are going forward, you will see 2 groups formed of 6 teams each. So 12 teams go through basically 2 groups, 6 teams each, and then to make things really tough, you have to win the group to qualify. So finishing anywhere beyond that does not guarantee you qualification. If you make it through to round 4, then you need to win your group, and that is where things get a little tough. As I said, the best case scenario for India would be scenario 1, where they then can finish in the top 2 come round 3. Scenario 2 is not impossible, but definitely a lot tougher. Believe it or not, there is another scenario in which they can make it, but that one is probably even tougher than this one. If you think, how is that possible? Well, Don't you worry, let me explain it to you. Now, in round 4, what they have to do is finish second, first of all, not even third, fourth, fifth, sixth. They have to finish second in their group of 6. And if they are finishing second in their group of 6, because again, there's 2 groups, so both the teams that finish second will play a 2-legged playoff of sorts. Whoever wins that playoff over 2 legs will then move forward into the Inter-confederation playoffs. Now, the Inter-confederations playoffs is where things get really murky. Why do I say murky? It's because, for one, it's a new format altogether. It's never ever been tried before. The only reason it's happening now, where you're having an Inter-confederations playoff, is because the number of teams have increased. So there's more teams that will be vying for that chance, even via the tough route of the playoff. So how exactly does the playoff work? Well, assuming India are one of those second place teams and they go on to end up winning the 2-legged tie, then they make it to the Inter-confederations playoff. And believe you me when I say you need to be prepared, this is tough. In the Inter-confederations playoff, you will see 6 teams battling it out for a total of 2 spots. Now, how do those 6 teams, how are they determined? Well, in this particular edition, you'll see 2 teams from CONCACAF, which is the North American Confederation. So 2 teams from North and Central America. And you'll see 1 team each from the CAF, which is Africa, OFC, Oceania, AFC, which is of course Asia, and CONMEBOL, which is the South American Federation. So that's how your 6 teams are determined. And then thereafter, from 6 teams, what will happen is that they'll look at the rankings, and the 2 teams that have the highest World Cup rankings are then on one side of the draw. The remaining 4 teams, on the other hand, will be paired together, and then if you're one of the lower ranked teams, which assuming India make it through, they probably will be, it means you basically have to win a virtual semi-final, thereafter beat the higher ranked team in the final, which then guarantees that you're one of the 2 teams that makes it through to the FIFA World Cup. As I said, the further down you leave it, the harder it becomes. For India, scenario number 1 is best case. Scenario number 2, I mean, it's hardly ideal, but if you get to scenario number 3, oh dear God, you are in for a lot of trouble, because again, if you found it tough to beat teams of the AFC, the Asian Football Confederation, you do not want to be going up against a CONCACAF side, a CONMEBOL side. South America, remember, have produced FIFA World Cup winning teams in the likes of course, Brazil, Argentina, and even Uruguay. Or better yet, even the African nations. A lot of African players do play in Europe's top flights. You do not want to be in this scenario, but as I said, these are the situations that currently face the Indian team. So the best case scenario for them, as I said, would be scenario number 1, wherein they finish in the top 2 of their group, make it to round 3, and somehow contrive to finish in the top 2 in that second group stage as well. Now, making it through to the round to round 3 this time around should not be that tough for India. It was much tougher in the last edition in 2018 when they were trying to qualify. That time it was tougher. Why? Because they had the likes of Jordan and Oman in their group, which made it virtually impossible for them to guarantee a top 2 finish. This time around, Qatar really are the only tough team. So even if you assume you lose both matches to Qatar, you've got 1 more game against Kuwait and 2 games home and away against Afghanistan, who, all due respect, are not the strongest football side. This is an Afghanistan side who in their first game in the World Cup qualifiers lost 8-1 to Qatar. So truth be told, India need to be looking at those games as easy wins. So assuming you can get past Kuwait at home and thereafter get the better of Afghanistan home and away, should be enough for you to at least seal AFC Asian Cup qualification for 27. After that, the World Cup can be seen as a little bit of a lottery, because again, the closer you get, all you need are a couple of good results, and who knows, maybe a top 2 finish is coming. What are your thoughts? Do you think with the number of teams expanding and the fact that this new qualifying system is in place, does it give India a better chance, or do you think that realistically a World Cup dream should be deferred till at least 2030 or 34? You can let us know that in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell icon, follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget to download the AajTak app, and if you're already on the channel, go right ahead, check out some other videos we've done, and stay tuned. We've got plenty more coming your way, including a live dugout. For now though, from my side, it is goodbye.